Oh no, now the knee. Well, that was it. Manu, what's he done there? He's sold the dummy with a knee injury. It's a fake knee injury. That is set up a try for Momirovski.
It's the next tackle. He gets an offload. He goes back and gets the football. Probably feels a cramp coming on in the back of his calf. And then just takes off.
Oh, what a beauty. So, you pick which has been the better moment. The bloke kicking the ball back from the traffic at the southern end, or Manu, the cramp, the fibber, and takes off to set up a try.
Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of the Supercoach Tragics podcast. I'm your host, Dan, back fresh off a week off. I was a bit crook last week, so happy to be back. With me tonight, as per usual, Glenn, mate, how you going?
Yeah, good, mate. Not a good week. I only got 1,199, dropped to 4K. But it is what it is. I left a few points on the bench.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of people do that at the moment. Like, my bench was not too bad. I had a pretty decent bench, but yeah, there's a few there. I was unlucky enough to I'm stuck with Pele from the Bulldogs. So when he played first, I realised, what's the point of VCing Latrell if he goes big? I can't really loop him. So yeah. I just captained him outright and didn't end up too bad for me. Got some junk points there, but pretty good score still. I got 13-38. Pretty solid score. Pretty happy with that. I was sitting now at 142nd, so moving up slowly. So
yeah, you are. You're in the top 10 of the Tragics, mate, which is nice. It's good to see one of us is up there.
Pretty crazy that when you think about like the coming 142nd, and I'm still not even in the top 5. It's crazy that's how competitive it is at the moment. So
the bye periods, mate, where we do our best work. So let's see how that plays out, eh?
That's it. Well, speaking of the overall group, so number 1. He lost it last week, but then got it back again. That's the Elite, Sam from the Elite. So now ranked 29th overall, but very, very close behind is Anthony from Team Old Mate. And in close company, I don't want to like keep going off and rattling all these ranks here because Old Mate's sitting at 33rd, the Elite's at 29th, very, very close up there. And then right behind we've got Ashley Koalas at 36th, and then 37th behind that. It's a close one, so it's anyone's game. So I'm right there, ready to catch up. So watch out, guys, coming for you.
Look out.
Awesome. All right, let's get started. So we'll start off with the first game. I'm looking forward to this game a lot. In Suncorp, Broncos versus Panthers. So it's been a good one.
Yeah, it will be a good game of footy. Panthers showed up last week. They were a good side. I lost Hosking last week and I lost Manu out of that game, but geez, it was a good game of football for Panthers.
Yeah, it brought back some hope for me because I think we've been so up and down and on and off, and then but I feel as though that's going to be very short lived with the bye period coming up, and they're all playing Origin and they're go back to our reserve grade team again. So
there's a few. So there's a few players of interest in this game. So I'll talk about the ones of interest that I see. So obviously Reece Walsh. If you own Reece Walsh, keep him now. And if he plays round 13, then you can look at selling. If he doesn't play, Origin, then you can grab him for round 13. I think he's the perfect one for the run through. The other one, obviously, everyone's looking at is Haas. Whether sell or not sell, I would suggest that you don't. He does average 90 against the Panthers. So he could even be a sneaky VC captain if he was to get any kind of attacking stat. That could be an interesting VC loop. And from the other side, the ones that we've been talking about is Hoskins. People are looking at selling Hoskins. So he played reduced minutes last week because of a HIA, and the week before that he played 60 minutes. So I'm moving myself Hosking on this week, and a lot of other coaches are doing the same. The other one I would suggest that people look at moving on is Crichton if you own him. He's got 120 break even. And obviously Taruva, if you need someone to get to Smith, Taruva could be your man, depending on your team dependent.
Yeah, I'm in a position where I'm looking at like so I went pretty heavy on the trade, so I've got like 25 left. I didn't trade last week, and I'm looking at offloading people like Taruva and that to make sure I have enough numbers for 13. But then I look at 16 and 19, and then you got to like think that you need those numbers there. So I know I'm losing cash and it's driving me out, but he's a fresh number for 16. So I'm keeping Taruva just because I don't want to waste trades and I want to come out of the buy period with about 15 trades left. But I can definitely see why people are selling him. He's on the down. He's needs to get a try to get, and even if he does get a try, he's not scoring through the roof either. So, But it's funny you mentioned Haas because I'm actually VCing Haas myself.
Yeah,
Just because I see he averages 90, and if he gets any attacking stats through that middle, which is possible, and often you'll find as well with Panthers they got very very consistent forwards, but
yeah.
and had like when they have Liam Martin on the edge, but now he's coming off the bench as well, so there's a bit more inconsistency in the forwards in the front row there with different forwards. So I think Haas might get some attacking points there, which would be good for owners.
Yeah, I actually see them playing through the middle. They've actually had a few
Mm.
points in through the middle.
Mm.
The Panthers, so it'll be an interesting game. And as you say, over the bye period, I've actually held Taruba myself.
Mm.
But I mean, people are looking at someone to sell to get to Smith, and that's an option. I just wanted to read some numbers out for you on Walsh. He's 660k, 666k. He's averaging 80 with a base of 22. That doesn't seem right. Oh, yeah, base of 22. That is right. Sorry.
Mm.
He's got buys 16, 19, and 25 with a PPM of 101. I won't go through all of his numbers, but he plays the Rift, Warriors, Sharks, Knights, by Titans. So the draw's kind of tough, but that's through the bye period where the Broncos will lose a lot of players, and some of them sides they're playing, specifically Warriors and Sharks, don't lose as many. So
Mm.
it could be a rough matchup, but I'm personally looking at buying Walsh if he doesn't go to Origin
Yeah,
myself.
that's 100% right because I was looking at I got Manu that we'll talk about him later and I'm thinking about holding, but I've also got I'm stupidly stuck with Sloan as well, so I'm just keeping him because of the buy period. But trying to find a replacement fullback is a challenge. I'm looking at that round 13, and it's really hard. You got what the main one is Gutho.
Yeah.
Really that you want to look at that could be potential gun, but he's not very consistent at all. If Walsh doesn't play Origin, he's the number one bring in my opinion, for that buy period. So
Absolutely. So I'll get to, when we get to Parramatta, I've got numbers on Gutherson as well.
Mm.
But I had Latrell and I had Walsh, and I sold Walsh 3 weeks ago, and I'm regretting that I did that. I did it because the draw got tougher, but they've been the two standout fullbacks, and then Gutherson would be the next one in line. But he's played one more game than others. So if you actually look at some of the stats based on how many games they've played, it's not as impressive as it seems.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty, let's move on to game number 2. So Friday night's first game, that's St George versus the Roosters. Two teams both struggling with a bit of form at the moment. So
yeah, absolutely. So the big
value might be some value here actually.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. So the big talking points in these sides would be obviously Billy Smith, who's got a break even of 62 from memory. So that's the player that most people are bringing in. The other big talking point is Manu to hold or sell. I notice a lot of people are selling. Look, if Tedesco will be playing Origin and Manu will play fullback. It's very likely that Manu goes into fullback, and his stats at fullback and 5'8" for Supercoach are phenomenal. So I wouldn't be letting him go. The other one of interest, but I wouldn't be grabbing now, but possibly 14, is Stili Tupanua. Tupanua is back into that side. So, and from the Dragons, the three of interest are, so I like Zach Lomax. He's at a very nice price now. If you're looking for a back for the round 13, and also plays round 14. And Jack de Bellin's the other, although Jack Bellin unlikely to play Origin, he's still on the premises, if that's the word. He is possible. And the other one is Jack Bird. They're the only three that I'd be looking at from that side myself specifically.
Yeah, you could try to start overthinking things and getting tricky and pick up a Ravalawa or someone, but even then, it's one of those you might get in for a couple of weeks where you might get one massive score and then just fade off to get 13s for you.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a pod.
Yeah, definitely a pod. And there's a reason he's a pod. He's like very similar to Coates, where he's going to score you 15 points and then he'll score you 120. So,
yeah.
But I've literally looked at my team, and I know I need to offload Holmes eventually before round 13. And I was looking at a few trades, and I was thinking like, Holmes to Lomax. I know it's a bit of a downward thing, but I think over the period of the buys, you'll get way more games, way more points out of Holmes than you will out of Lomax than you will out of Holmes.
I think you're going to see a different Dragons side now. Like I know this is wrong to say, but I'm going to say what I feel. I feel like the Dragons have been tanking. I feel like they've not been putting in their best. They've wanted to get rid of Hook, and I actually think this week you'll see a different Dragons. So if that's right, watch them this round. If you like what you see, then maybe pick up Lomax. He's a goal kicker. He's playing for the Dragons. They're not a ceiling side, but at his price, points per dollar, I think it makes sense. He's got a very good base, Lomax.
And Nadia mentioned that I'll be thinking the same thing, that you might see a bit of a bite in the Dragons team coming out this week, and that's the reason why I'm actually putting my last reserve on Sloan. I think Sloan might actually pick up a little bit. And the Roosters
Yeah.
are letting a lot of points in. So I don't know. I think it was when they played the Warriors, I noticed that they were letting a lot of points down their left edge defensively. So the right edge of the Warriors were getting through really, really easily.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
and I think I see Sloan sweep around that right edge a lot. So I think there's going to be some points out of Sloan this week. So
Yeah, absolutely.
awesome. Alrighty, let's move on to the next game. So game number 2 on a Friday night, South Sydney versus Parramatta. Depending on what Parramatta team turns up, mate, this could be a bloody cracker as well.
Yeah, well, this will be a good game. I mean, Rabbitohs are the form side of the competition, and I mean, as people saw last week, they struggled against the Tigers. The Tigers keep continuing to defend Supercoach points. They've only let in two hundreds, but I think you'll see a different side against the Eels. There's a few players of interest in both sides. So Alex Johnson and Tass, I think, are of interest. Latrell Mitchell and Campbell Graham, I think, are both going to play Origin. I would not be selling Latrell, or I don't even know I'd be selling Campbell Graham. I just think that they'd be too hard to get back. And why give away your advantage? If you own them, keep them. From the Eels, so Bryce Cartwright's come into contention because of Lane having his injury. He's out for 6 weeks. But it's a good chance that he plays 80 on that edge. If I look through his stats, and he's actually played 6 out of 8 games at 80 minutes. So if you're looking for someone to go at 400K, I think that he's not a terrible option, although their draw's relatively tough. Clint Gutherson, Sivo, Penasini, Dylan Brown, Mitchell Moses are all players that you could look at. I'd be wary on Mitchell Moses with that in his rolling average. But if you're looking to go a Hines or a Cleary down to someone, Moses could be your man unless you own Brown and Gutherson. I wouldn't be going all three. That could be suicidal for Supercoach.
Yeah, especially when they had the round 14 bye. I was looking at I was looking at Moses, and I for a very, very short time. So I'm not selling Cleary or Holmes. I just can't do it to myself. But I looked at Moses, and I'm like, even with just Brown, I feel like they steal points from each other. So it's very rare they're going to get a 50-point game.
Yep.
When they do, they both get tons, but it's very rare that actually happens. So I'll just stick with my gut and go with Brown. So I think that's probably what I'm sticking with. I think Moses is too scary for me.
Well, on the upside on Eels players, they play every major bye. They do miss 14, but they play 15, 16, 17. They miss 18, and then they play 19, 20, right up to 27. So you've only got, if you can dodge them for round 14, if you can maybe get a few Eels around 15 and start, for the way home, some of the guns. But I just wanted to go over one lot more of numbers, which was Gutherson. Yeah. So he's got a break even of 27. So listen, when I wrote this was before the round started last week. I just want to make that clear to people. So break even was 27 with an average of 74. He's got a PPM of 0.94 and a base of 27. He plays Raiders, Souths, Cows bye, Dogs, Manly, Dolphins bye, Warriors, Titans, Cows. That's actually a really sweet draw. So I don't hate going after some of the Parramatta players. One of the ones I really think is a good option is Penasini, if you're looking for a pod centre wing.
Yeah, I like Penasini a lot because he doesn't like the pass. He gets the ball, and it's like he thinks he's the winger. And hey, it's been working for him. He's been doing really good work on that edge. So I'm really, really happy there for him. So I was there's players there that I'm actually thinking about. Like a lot of people will go Penasini. I think he's probably the most likely out of all the centers to play for the bye period. There's other players out there we should talk about later. But like there's the sneaky Rapanas and that I'm trying to maybe look at instead and try and outthink everyone. So that's what I'm thinking. But yeah, I really like Penasini. I think he's definitely a good call, good shout.
Yeah, I like Tomoko and Rapana. Just on that, so Sivo I think is not a terrible option. I think that with Moses back now, that doesn't ring as true. I thought they'd go left more, but Jacob Arthur actually dominated on right as much, so it didn't play out the way I kind of thought it would. But yeah, I like Sivo Penasini, but I like Penasini more on the right side.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for like a massive ceiling, then Sivo could be your guy. But if you're looking for someone a bit safer that also has a reasonably high ceiling, I think it's probably the smarter option to go Penasini.
One other player we should mention is Ryan Madison. So I would not be buying him this week. I would wait till next week. Yeah. One of the questions that we have, which I'll answer later, who are the best players to get for round 13? I can't answer that question until round 13, until we know who's in and who's out. But Madison, if you own him, don't sell him because he's somebody that's base is very solid.
Yeah, I was so annoyed when he got put to the bench, but I had this glimmer of hope that he'd be just doing what he did last year from the bench, and he has been. So I'm like, oh, thank God. But I do get nervous in the first week he was on the bench. That was the game when Moses went down. Yeah. And I'm like, because he came off.
Yeah.
And he went back on for Moses when he came down for the HOA. So I was like, oh, and he has not been playing very big minutes. I think he's playing about 55, but
Yeah.
he's still smashing out 60, 65 points. So I'm happy with that still.
Well, there's some news that went around today that Offenhauer could end up at Parramatta as in as much as 48 hours. And if that's true, I would be really worried about how that plays out. It could affect Cartwright or Davey, and it could move Matter to an edge, Hopgood to front row, and or Madison. It could do all sorts of things, So it'd be interesting to see how that plays. I hope as a Tiger supporter that doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, Offer is one of those workhorses that even though he might not be breaking the world down, he does a good job in the middle there. He looks after. Yeah, I like Offer, and I think I'm confused as to why he would go to Para. Like, you know what I mean? It's a bit strange because like they're so front heavy. Like, he'd be just going back a step.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Yeah. Alrighty, let's move on to the next game. So the Sharkies versus Newcastle. It's pretty hard to go past Hines here for a captain choice here, eh?
Absolutely. Yeah, the Knights have been leaking points. I mean, they looked really good last week. Kalen Ponga, I mean, I own him in draft and he absolutely killed it for me. I didn't go far off scoring more in my draft side than I did in my classic
Yeah, I
side.
bet.
But the players of interest here, Lachlan Miller, I actually think Ponga hurts Lachlan Miller. I said that last week. I'll reiterate that. As you'll notice, his numbers have declined. I've actually done a little bit on Miller as well. So he's 674 with a break even of 80, averaging 71, base of 31. But he scores 52, 50, 98, 103, 95, 77, then 32, 84, 45, and then whatever he got last week, which was fairly low.
I think it was about 55 off memory. I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually don't like Miller as a buy. He was one I was looking at picking up for the buy round. I actually started the season with him and I let him go. That's why my season's in 4K and not 400 because I buy the right players, I just sell them.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, kind of like last year with your 5-8 roulette at the start of the year.
That's right. The players of interest for round 14 would be pretty much anyone in the Sharks back line. And the players that are interested, I mean, Marzu, most people own, but I'll tell you a good pod if you want to pick one up is Bradman Best. Although the fear on Bradman Best is there's talk about letting him go from the Newcastle Knights to fit into their salary cap. And Lachlan Fitzgibbon, who's playing outside Ponga, I just think that I should have picked him up a few weeks ago when he was about 150K cheaper. He's made a lot of money. Another one of those ones I suggested that I didn't go on myself.
Yeah, I think you mentioned him a couple of weeks ago too when he was right for the picking and you backed out. So
him and Aiden Fanua Blake and I.
Yeah, I think you mentioned him when Ponga just came back. That was it. You're like, oh, we might unlock him. So but I've been watching Fitzy do a pretty decent job there. Even like with Ponga just often just breaking through the line without even using him, he's still getting big points. So
yeah.
Alrighty. Next game, we'll go on to the Tigers versus the Cowboys. This could be anything.
Yeah.
Not in a good way.
Well, I think it'll be a kind of a yuck game to watch. But I think the Cowboys are on the rise, and I think the Tigers are on the rise. The Tigers have been defending Supercoach points all season. But having said that, people are talking about selling Holmes. Don't do it. Wait till next week. I think that Holmes against the Tigers will still score well. Drinkwater's the one that people are bringing in for the buy round. I'll just say, I won't go through all his numbers, but he's averaging 55 with a PPM of 0.69 with a base of 25. His base is actually better than the other ones that I've read out, but his PPM is much lower and he's averaging. I personally don't like Drinkwater. I know a lot of people do on other pods, but the one that is of interest in here is Reece Robinson. I'll just quickly read his outline. I've only got two on the hookers. So Robson's 582 with a break-even of 63, averaging 60 with a PPM of 0.74. His scores are quite good, 74, 45, 85, 40, 74, 56, 38, 69, 56 and 61. JMKs are much better and we'll get to him. But yeah, that's the only two hookers I'd be looking at, I think, outside of Grant and Cook for the buy round would be JMK and Robson.
Yeah, it's why I was going to make trades last week. I was going to go Robson last week because I could go clean trade from Tanner Boyd, but I thought I'd hold on one more week, which didn't really help. But he went up a bit more cash. He had a pretty low break even, so it doesn't matter. So I'll be doing probably using 3 trades next week, not trading again this week, and going 3 trades and bringing in either one of JMK and then turning Holmes into one of the pod, more than likely probably Lomax, I think, at the moment. And hopefully I can free up enough cash with the third trade to go Tanner Boyd to JMK. That's my theory. So I think that's probably a better option than Robson.
The other ones that we haven't mentioned, so Heelan Lukey is one of the most bought in this week, and people are also bringing in Goz. I would warn you against Goz altogether. So they've got James Noah-Brown, Cotter, Nanai. There's a couple other ones I've forgotten who are all due back into that side. I think Lukey's job security is better than Goz, so I don't hate it, but I'd still be nervous as an owner or buyer of those two players, especially Goz. Points per dollar, he's got, he makes sense, but you really should have got on a couple of rounds ago.
Yeah, I brought Goz in as just a stupid thing, and I got so lucky with it because now I got suspended. So even though I got him and he's doing good for me, that was pure luck because I totally forgot about Lukey coming back. I was in my head, all I could think of was Lolo, and then luckily Nano got suspended for like 6 or 7 weeks or something stupid. So I was like, thank God that
Well, he picked up a couple of tries in those games, so that's worked out really nicely for you, and you've made some money. And I wouldn't be selling him; I'd hold him for 13.
Definitely.
And move him on round 14.
That's it. Alrighty. Off to the Dolphins versus the Storm. I'm actually thinking this might be a pretty decent game. I think the Dolphins tend to and it'll be a Bennett challenge. He's playing, I mean, the Storm. I reckon it'll be a really, really good game.
Yeah, I agree. And add to the fact that a lot of ex-Storm players are now playing for the Dolphins. I'll have something to say about, this game. I think it'll be a very close contested contest. I think the Storm will win this game. It's at Suncorp, which is interesting. To have Hammers being tipped to play Origin, the players in here of interest are Isako and Aiken and Jeremy Marshall-King. So Jeremy Marshall-King's the only other one that I've written stats for that I'll read out. He's 680K with a break-even of 63, averaging 69 with a PPM of 0.88. I won't go through it all, but he scores 89, 33, 53, 89, 72, 68, 78, 69. They're Cook and Grant numbers. The last, 89, 72, 68, 78, 69. They're really nice numbers. And I think that he's the person you were targeting to bring in for the buy round for all the way through. And then sell him off to Cookie at the end.
Yeah, I think like those numbers there. What was that? The lowest score was what, 59, did you say? That's a pretty
there was
low
a 33, but that wasn't a full game.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah, or everyone he's played 80 minutes and he scored very well.
Yeah, no, I like it. That's what I'm hoping to get. I reckon the money I saved going home is down to someone. I reckon I can get him in. So
yeah, nice.
Looking forward to it. Awesome. Alrighty. So Melbourne aren't playing the bye round, so there's not really much to get into. Right, he probably won't be trading anyone in from Melbourne, I don't think.
Maybe trading out. So the ones that you could look at trading out would be Warbrick. He's a sell now. Cameron Munster, I would consider going to either Dylan Brown or Cody Walker. So Cody Walker's one I didn't mention earlier, who we should have spoken about.
Yeah, definitely.
Another one I probably would have jumped on earlier. And the other one's Harry Grant. I would suggest don't sell Harry Grant. Hold Grant, Cleary and Hines and Fafita. They're the four I would not be getting rid of.
Yeah.
And Latrell.
Yeah. Oh, one of my because I always do some crazy thought and trades at the start of the week before the teams even get announced and think of some ideas. And one of them was to go as stupid was Manu down to Smith and then turn Katoa into Cody Walker, and that way I'd have Cody Walker and Dylan Brown as my 258. But then to me that's just crazy because I'm losing a buy player, replacing him with another buy player. Fair enough to get more points, but then I'm losing a gun down to my centre wing. So
I did the same thing. I went Manu to Smith and then Sonny Luke up to JMK. It looked beautiful. But then I changed it around because I've got a non-player there, Billy Army, who's just been sitting there all year. And I do not like having a spot on my bench that's doing nothing. It's making me no money, no points. So I turned him to I just said to Smith. I turned him to Smith, and I've done a really crazy trade this weekend. I've gone Hoskins to Burbo, and I've done that to stash some cash aside. And I think it's a risky trade, but I'm not even playing him. I don't have to. I've got a whole stack that I can play. Well, I might play him or Schuster or Stefano or Croco. As I said, there's a whole handful that I'm choosing from.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So second last game of the week is Bulldogs versus the Titans. This could be some if you've got any players here, there could be some pretty big scoring game.
Yeah, and there's a lot of players here to pick up round 14, and I think there's even a couple you could pick up now. If you're well stashed for round 13, then the two players I would be jumping on straight away are Ka Olapu, I can't ever say his name, and number 6. He's an absolute gun at bottom dollar price. And same with Harrison Edwards. I'm a little bit nervous on Harrison Edwards, but if you've got a Pele, a Mole, or somebody there that's an AE nightmare, I would be jumping on him. And then the other one I probably would have jumped on earlier, but he could be your man to make you a bit of money and then move him on at some point and use it elsewhere. Pereira's not going to play this week, so for some reason he's not playing and Shoop's in for the Titans. And David Fafita, just don't sell him. You'll struggle to get him back, and he's just been on fire. And look, it's remote, but there's a very remote chance that he doesn't even make the Origin side. I mean, it would be insane if he doesn't. Yeah. But a few sides I've seen have got Kafusi and Capewell and all these other ideas, and I'm just thinking that's insane, mate. David Fafita must play and play 80.
It's a crazy world to think that that's a possibility, but there's people out there thinking it. So a lot of crazy people in the world.
They're saying Damien Cook's not going to play and Applewhite's going to play 80 minutes. And I'm like, it's a tripping. Cook will play and David Fafita will play. Trust me on that.
Yeah, I saw a couple of teams like listed, just people posting on Facebook, so people with no names really, and they're saying that they didn't even have Cook at 14. They had Happy playing 80. You're like with it.
Yeah, Happy 80 and Hines 14.
Yeah.
Look, in my opinion, Hines either plays 6 or doesn't play at all. But I wouldn't hate him at 14 if Cook was the 9.
Yeah, that's right. Because you Cook can play 80 quite comfortably and have done in the past, even at Origin level. So
yeah, that's right.
All right, last game of the week: Canberra Raiders versus Manly at Canberra. Thoughts here, mate?
Sorry, mate. I just want to go back. I've left a couple of players out. So Preston's a hold, and Hayes Perham has been a really good pod for me. He's averaging 62 or 64. I've been playing him every week, and actually a couple of weeks I didn't play him. He scored really big. But moving on to the next game. So Turbo, there's a chance that Turbo doesn't make Origin. So if you own Turbo, well done. You've held him. I think he's got a point to prove. And I think if he doesn't get picked for Origin round 13, he comes out and makes a statement. We all know what Turbo can do. Look, he doesn't look the same. Nakora left him for dead. I mean, how does a second rower leave a fullback like that for dead? Yeah. Sorry, mate, I didn't mean to say. The others of interest, if you don't own Garrett, get on. Schuster, I wouldn't be buying. If you own him, then, hopefully he lasts this game out and gets to play 13. That's how sketchy he is.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. I'm hoping he lasts the game. I was hoping he wouldn't get named until 13.
Yeah, that'd have been better, wouldn't it? Ola Kawatu's a big chance for Origin, but the big talking point in this one is Ben Trbojevic. So Tuolagi's got a face fracture, I think. He's out for 6 weeks. But the fear for him is Bullimore on the bench. But look, Burbo has been playing good minutes and his base has been pretty solid. So he's purely a cash grab. He's not a strike player. But if you're looking to make cash one place to boost another, he's your man. And the player
I got him last year. Sorry to interrupt. I got him last year at a similar situation where if there was an injury, he comes in and plays 80 minutes in second row. I picked him up nice and cheap and I got some good points out of him. So could be a sneaky little option there.
Well, that's right. Well, I've taken him because it's given me 300 and something K in my bank. And what I'm doing is I've got Tedesco and Latrell, and I want to be able to go JMK, Maddo, and Walsh. I'm looking at those sort of players, you know what I mean? And I've worked out a way I can do that. We've traded one down and going up. But the ones that are interesting in there are Olakawatu. If he stays, he's a buy around 13. If he doesn't make the Origin side, I think you'll get paid through the bench. But the ones of the Canberra, look, I'll let you shoot the Canberra ones off because you had a couple there in mind you wanted to say, and I have them lined out, but I'll let you say them.
Yeah, I think Tomoko is playing just amazingly at the moment, so I really like him a lot. But if you can't afford him because he's not cheap either, he's actually really highly priced now. Don't know off the top of my head, but it was pretty high. It was close to 700, I think around 700 mark. So I like Rapana as a budget option there. He's just re-signed his deal as well just recently, so that was announced today, I think. So I like Rapana there. He's just got aggression. I'm not a big fan of him personally because he's a bit aggro on the field, but it equates to Supercoach points. There's aggression when he busts tackles. He plays his heart at every game. So I think and they've got a pretty decent. I think they're playing Rabbitohs in round 13, which will have a bit of a depletion there. But they're playing Manly, who have been pretty weak this week. So I like the matchup there.
Yeah, well, the Eels are playing the Cowboys, who will be depleted, or not as much as the who did you just say then? Raiders are playing who?
I think Raiders are playing South from memory.
Yeah, South will be depleted. I mean, they lose a lot. Cook, Murray, Latrell, they lose a lot of that side. So you're right. I mean, and that's one of the things you've got to look at in the matchups is who will be missing from what. And if you're looking for cheap players, what ones you can pick up to play through the duration. But I like Tomoko. My young fella picked him up last week. He's playing outside Fogarty, which is also playing some really good rugby league. And Tarpany, I think, is priced at a point now where you could grab him. And yeah, and the other ones that people can't talk about is Tohu and Ford, obviously, because they're not playing this week. But Horse, I think Horse has worked himself into the Queensland side, so I wouldn't buy him now. And if you own him, hold. Hope he doesn't. I own him.
I'm hoping that little I took a little sacrifice last week and hope he just played himself out of a jersey with that little biff on. So
Well, he's a meathead, isn't he? He
yeah.
does dumb stuff, and I mean they don't need any more dumb players. But I mean it's Origin, you know. I'm not going to say it. All our Queensland fans will come down on me, but I mean I see things through New South Wales eyes only. So that let's say that, but. You know, it's a game where everyone gets away with everything, isn't it, really? There's a lot less of the whistle. And it's the way I love rugby league played, to be fair.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't even think he threw a punch at all. I thought it was just threw a loose arm out there, and his arm wasn't even, he didn't have a fist. It was more like a little,
right.
Yeah.
I thought what Kiri did was more of a punch than what he did. You see what Kiri did? We ran up behind and shifted him in that game. Yeah.
But even in that same little fight, there was Madison who had his shirt like this and was throwing punches into his face with his shirt. But that's allowed because you're holding his shirt. Yeah,
that's right. Do it that way. There's a way that can be done. That's right. You know, one of the things, talking about shirt jumpers that I really hate is a player that's been tackled and they hold the bloke's jumper down like this. And then when they go to get up, they're still holding it. So they get a lot of penalties doing that because they're laying down a long time. I can't remember who done it, but Frizzell got up and pushed him over and ended up getting penalty. I thought that's so funny.
Sneaky.
Yeah, well, anyway, they're the numbers. So just one other thing I wanted to say. I've been writing out numbers on our thing. I've done the fullbacks and I've done the hookers on our page. I'm doing front row at the moment and second row. I'll have that up on the page by tomorrow, and then I'll have the back centre wing. So it'll all be up by round 13. So make sure you check it out if you want to know the numbers and stuff going on with players.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan. All right. Before we get into our trade talk and our captains, do you want to get some questions there for us, Glenn?
I do, mate. So two of our viewers have asked some questions, so I'll throw them at you. Okay, the best hooker that has a decent buyer coverage to partner with Grant, is it JMK or Robson? We've already answered that, guys. It's JMK. And if you look on our page, I put up when they play. So JMK has a buy 14, so straight after. No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. No.
That's not right. Oh, that's Gutho. That's why I'm reading the wrong one.
Yeah.
I was going to say, no, he doesn't. JMK has a buy, round 16 and 21. So he'll play 13, 14, 15, then misses 16, then 17, 18, 19, 21. So JMK's coverage is really good. So there's your answer.
I think the Dolphins and the Warriors have the best buyer coverage, I'm pretty sure.
And the Eagles,
on memory.
Those three have. That's right. And the other question, mate, one was a little bit more complex. So this one we can't really answer. So who would be your top 3 players for the first buy?
Top 3 players. Oh, this is challenging because it's hard to really pick.
It's
like, for example, one player that I really like, I know it's probably not going to be a massive ceiling, but I like him a lot, is Madison. I know he's a bit risky, but that's probably the reason why I like him more. And another Parramatta player is Dylan Brown. I really like Parramatta. Who else? And of course, and my number. This would be my number 1. Sorry, I do apologise, and that's Ruben Garrick.
Yeah, that's right.
Playing fullback.
I also think Reece Walsh, JMK, but Reece Walsh we don't know until that round. I agree with you on Dylan Brown and Maddo, 100%. I think that Maddo, JMK, and Reece Walsh are the 3 I had in mind. I didn't think about Dylan Brown. I agree with you on Dylan Brown.
But I really also, the other one I will say is I haven't got him, but I really want him. But I can't have both, and that's Cody Walker.
Yeah, that's right. Well, see, I've got Katoa and Brown. And now that Alupulu, however you say his name, from the Dogs is in, I'm going to bring him in round 14. And there again, it frees up a lot of cash to start putting in other places because that enables you to have, you've still got a gun back up at bottom dollar price who's going to make money and hope he's got job security, but it also gives you a good stack of coin to throw into those gun positions because you want to start building now on the way home to guns. You know, after the buy period. So
well, the players like Ikatoa, the other ones that like we often say there's like, oh, you trade this guy out, he's right at the pick, and you either trade him up or you trade him down. Often we'll say, no, he's a trade up, but Katoa is that perfect trade down because he's that. I know the reason why I say that is because he's been that slow burn. Slow burn ones, he's been slowly building up his cash, then you trade down, and then you can build up to elsewhere. So I like that move as well.
But I don't hate the idea of having Brown, Walker, Brown, Munster, or any one of those combinations. But if you are looking to make money and you've got Katoa, that is an option to go down. build and use that cash. Hopefully he builds up enough, and then at some point you can downgrade your second row or front row bench down, and then bring that up to Munster or Cook, depending on draw.
Awesome. All right, no more questions. Let's move on to. I know I've already told you that I'm not trading at all this week, but I'll tell you what I might do. So I'll start with you, Glenn, if you want, though.
So I've gone Billy Army. I've held this NPR on my bench since round 1, and it's been irking me. So I've traded him to Billy Smith, and then I've gone Hoskins down to Burbo. I originally went Cartwright, and I thought, well, why would I do that when I can go to Burbo, who'll probably get me around about the same score for 200k less, right? And no need to play him if I don't want to.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that, and that's enabling me to have 300 plus k towards getting my upgrades on round 13.
Yeah. I want to say the reason got behind why I'm not trading this week, and that's because I was going to trade out Manu and Holmes, but I don't think I need to. It's not a massive way.
Yeah.
And the main reason is I can trade out Holmes because I'm stupidly I have Sloan in my fullback position over there, which is annoying. I can rotate if I wanted to, but I can trade out Holmes, and if I find out next week that Turbo is playing, I'll be bringing Turbo in.
So for you not to trade, you must be pretty flush for numbers for 13 then, right?
I'm sitting on 12 right now.
Yeah.
So I'll plan on making 3 trades next week. So I'll probably more than likely just go bring one in for 13 and then look for the next 2 games, maybe 14 and then 16 as well. So
well, I have 11, but in that 11 I have Horse, Hopgood, and Schuster. And I have 12 if Mole was to play, but I think that's very unlikely.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing in Burbo this week to bring me to the 11. Sorry.
Yeah.
That brings me to 11, and then allows me to go 12, 13, 14. I can go an extra one if I want, or just bring in 2. But I'm counting on one being out. So that way, one's out, I can still have 13. But
I worked it out because I was like going through my trades pretty hard, but I've been building up my teams because it's really every single year. It's one thing that a lot of people don't pick up is the bye period is normally half the teams have a bye, and the other half don't. So there's only 4 games.
Yeah,
we've got 5 games during the major buys. There's actually an extra, which means I've actually built my team where I've got 12 available for 13 right now. Trades. For 16, I've got 13 already.
Yeah, me too.
And for 19, I've got 12.
Yeah.
So if I make the right trades next week, I will have 13 players for every single round without having to make any more trades barring injury. So
the ones that people need to be careful of is rounds 14, 16, 17, and 20. So really look at your sides. If you're looking at, you're going, 13, 16, 19, is it? The 3 major buys. Just look at the ones after that, which is 14, 17 and 19, because they're the ones where players could get rested. So, but they're also like, for example, if Grant plays off the bench, you can think to yourself, well, Grant's likely to come back. Like, that's something I've been writing in my thing that I've put up is those who have been rested in the past and those who haven't. And that's not, it's only an indicator to go off. It doesn't mean that could be right.
One thing I will say as well is the fact that, so just to reiterate your caution of those rounds after the major buy rounds, is that in round 13, 16 and 19, we're only needing 13 players. We need the whole 17 for those games after the major buys, and we're going to have 3 teams having a buy those weeks. So even though it might not seem as difficult, it actually kind of is because you've got 3 less teams playing and you need to use 4 more players. So,
but based on your rank, mate, and based on your players you have available, I personally would not be trading at all. I think that the more you can hold trades and stay up there, that will really come good for you coming on the way back. The more of those trades you've got to run home with, so you can almost have max trades coming home. That would really help you to stay in that position and elevate on that. Because that's what I failed in before. I've made top 100 quite often, but I've burnt out. And then I've had to just sort of make do with what I've got left for the last 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to if I can get 12 or 13 players next week without making 3 trades and only make the 1, I'll do that. Because if on my luck, I'd bring a guy playing in 14 to try and cover that 14, and then he gets injured the week, like in Origin, something like, what I mean? So probably smarter just to make the 1 trade next week and just. But the reason why I want to make 2 is because I'm going to have some plays in my 13 that aren't ideal. So and an example right now is I had 13, but Dunster being ruled out because he hasn't played, and he's one of those players who's just useless.
And plus, if you win, I get 10%, and I'll probably get a ring because you'll get so many of them. You'll have one for every finger because of all the different comps we're in.
Yeah, I've already got one. I've got three up there now, so I just need to get two more to fill one hand up. So
It's frustrating to me. I've won, like, if you were to go by yours and my averages over the years, I've finished the top so many times, but I've never managed to get a ring. I've always been up the top there, but I've never been at the actual first fight.
I'll tell you what, insert that meme right now. You know, with you, it's always consistently good. Mine is sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit. It's never in the middle. It's always good or shit.
But I mean, there might be something in that, Dan. It means like maybe that I'm just sticking to the status quo too much, you know, and on the years where I've done well, the status quo's done well. And in the years where I've done bad, the status quo's done bad. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
So I need to sort of lean a little bit out to some of the suggestions that I make, because as you know, I've given out a few that have really played out. But you know, don't sell yourself short, mate. Like, you've been 15 before, you know, we've been doing this a while of all forms of Supercoach, and you know, you're having a good season because you've got it right. And
I made take a few risks. That's what happens. Take a few risks, and it either goes well or goes bad. And that's the thing. I take risks. So, all right, let's move.
If you do bad, I'm going to remind you. So while you're doing good, enjoy it.
No, mate, I won't be enjoying much. I'll be getting it wrong more often than not. So,
good on you,
good.
Mate. It's good.
All righty, mate. Let's talk captain, vice captain. I'll go first this time. So I've already mentioned it before, but I'm more than likely going to VC Haas in the just in case he gets a try, meat pie over the line there. And if you get to meat pie, he probably gets about 120. So something to think about. But reason behind that is because I want to captain Hines straight up. Yeah. I think he's probably the best option. So
I'm having a dilemma. So my common sense tells me to go Tedesco versus the Dragons, or even Billy Smith. I just think that there's a chance that either one of them could have a ceiling. But I also think Latrell. But at the moment, I've got Latrell as my vice captain. But that could change to Tedesco. I'm not sure. And my captain is Hines. Pretty generic there, but I just think versus tonight, it's a no-brainer. One other player to mention, if you're able to do it, and we should be able to with Warrior players on the bench, is Hines VC, David Fafita C. His matchup's really juicy this week too versus the Bulldogs.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to think, because a lot of people may have, say, Preston, for example. They can put him on the start of the field. Put him on they're going to play him in their 17. Put him on the field, and then you could put one of your Warriors players in there, like a forward.
Well, I looked at it myself. See, I could leave out Burbo, take Preston off, and put Dar back onto Preston, and then put Ford on. And I could play David Fafita as my C if Hines was to not do well. But if I did, I could do all that and loop Hines. So, I mean, I want to do something different. I was going to go Fafita last week, and I stuffed myself. What I did, you know how I always move all my players on that are playing? Well, I did that with Hopgood last week. And then literally just before the game, I said to Josh, I've just stuffed myself. I can't go Fafita. I've only got Hines as an option now. Yeah. And it didn't really hurt me by too much, I think.
Yeah, I've been pretty all over it this year. Like, I haven't been making too many little errors. Like I made one little error, and it actually ended up being a bit of a savior. Really, my plan was to go either Sloan or Lomax.
All right.
And I went, I'll go Lomax. I chose Lomax in my head, and then I'll do it real late to mess my head up. But what happened was, I had all my centre wings play, so I couldn't move Taruba down to fullback to do that. So I had to get Sloan no matter what. Yeah, that was the only mistake I made. Everything else I've been all over. Like, I've been looking at my captains, whether I can loop. And I only looped once this year, but leaving your options open is where to try and get them most out of your points is the best way to do it, to keep your options open. So,
well, financially, Sloan's worked for you anyway. I mean, you brought him in to make some coin, and he's done that, right?
Yeah, and now he's a fresh number that can score good on his day. Yeah, and right. I think he turns up with Lomax back as well. I think that's what happens. So,
I agree. I think that they turn up now with their coach gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, good timing. All right, and that wraps everything up tonight. Then nice and neat little package tonight.
Yeah.
All good. Fantastic. All right, guys. Thanks for joining in, and we'll have this up on YouTube and very shortly on Spotify. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week. Good luck.
See you guys. Good luck.
So you want to be a champion? Oh no! Now the knee. Well, that was it. Manu. What's he done there? He sold the dummy with a knee injury. It's a fake knee injury. Manu set up a try from Momirovski.
It's the next tackle. He gets an offload. He goes back and gets the football. Probably feels a cramp coming on in the back of his calf, and then just takes off.
Oh, what a beauty! So, you pick which has been the better moment. The bloke kicking the ball back from the traffic at the southern end, or Manu, the cramp, the fibber, and takes off to set up a try.